Hello, viewers, it's Josie. Welcome back to Eclectic Movie Reviews and Updates. And the day of this recording is Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas to you all. So, I'm going to continue discussing some underrated, under-discussed, Christmas movies. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give out Christmas movie awards. Okay, so the first film I'm going to talk about is it's it's a you don't have to watch it on Christmas. You can watch it around any time, but like it's Christmassy feeling because of the snow and one one of the songs in it, and that is Anastasia from 1997, directed by Don Bluth. Anastasia, voiced by Meg Ryan, is the last living daughter of Tsar Nicholas II. In the beginning of the story, we see a ball. It is the year 1916 in St. Petersburg, Russia. For those of you who don't know, it is sort of inspired, very, very loosely inspired by real life events, but, made into a fairy tale. Uh, so Anastasia at age 8, at this point in the movie, voiced by young Kirsten Dunst, is at the ball with her grandmother, Empress Maria. And Empress Maria gifts her with a music box along with a necklace with the words "Together in Paris." Now, a villainous sorcerer, Rasputin, Christopher Lloyd, disrupts the ball, and uh, he announces his grand plan to terminate the Tsar's family. And Rasputin's revolutionary team invades the palace, and Marie and Anastasia begin their escape with the help from a boy named Dmitri. Marie makes a train, but Anastasia fails to jump on, and she falls. And cut to 10 years later, Russia is governed over a communist regime. Uh, and there are theories, which turn out to be true, that Anastasia is indeed alive. And Maria basically offers like a sweepstakes award for the finding of Anastasia, and Dmitri, the boy who guided Anastasia and Maria to the train, is now a hustler. He's voiced by John Cusack. He has a crime partner named Vlad, and the two have a goal of finding an Anastasia lookalike to receive money. And it's revealed that for the past decade, Anastasia lived in an orphanage. She experienced amnesia after the fall, so she doesn't remember her previous identity as Anastasia. So she goes by the name Anya. And by her side is an adorable puppy dog. And Dmitri and Vlad find Anastasia, and they tell her they're going to bring her back to her grandmother, not knowing that she actually is Anastasia. And uh, Anya slash Anastasia and Dmitri fall in love, and and they're under the threat of the villain Rasputin, voiced by Christopher Lloyd, as I said. Oh, and his little minion, voiced by Kelsey Grammer, is like this weird, like, it sort of looks like Brain from Pinky and the Brain, kind of, but like with like sort of like rat or rodent ears. Uh, and the animation is eye popping gorgeous. I love Anastasia's green eyes and the detail to the costumes. The drawing of the background scenery is so transportive. This movie's not nearly talked about as an animated, like, princessy classic as it should. Now this was under the Fox animated animation studios. This was part of those the group of films they did, and they stopped. They also made Fern Gully and Once Upon a Forest, but they were they dissolved. Um, but yeah, it's now sort of it it went from being a non Disney princess movie to a Disney princess movie because Disney owns Fox. I'm going off tangent here, but I was watching Mystery Science. I've been obsessed with Mystery Science Theater lately, and there was this episode where like they make fun of movies, and there's a shot where someone's riding a boat, and they said Fox Searchlight Pictures presents, and I was like, and then that episode was released before Disney bought Fox. Just a funny thing to bring up. Uh, anyway, as I said, it's a great alternative, like, princessy movie to show to girls. Anastasia is available to watch on Disney Plus uh, this holiday season or anytime. Next up is The Holly and the Ivy from 1952, directed by George Moore O'Farrell. This is a British Christmas movie based off of a play of the same title by what's the author's name? The playwright's name. The Holly and the Ivy play. Winard Brown. So, a minister named Martin Gregory, played by Ralph Richardson, has his three children: Jenny, played by Celia Johnson, who some of you may know from Brief Encounter, uh, Mar- Michael, played by Denholm Elliott, and Margaret, played by Margaret Leighton. And uh, he has them come over for the holidays, and also I think two of their aunts come. And now Martin Gregory was always sort of a distant father, focusing more on like church work than his kids. And of his three children, the main character of focus is Jenny. She is she's Martin's aide, uh, like health aide, and Michael's very much bitter towards religion. He strongly opposed his father's wishes of him attending university post his Royal Artillery Service time. Margaret is like a fashionista and a magazine writer going through alcoholism, and you find out why later in the movie. Family secrets are unveiled, and in spite of the personal issues within the family, there is a coming together through communication the hard way. But it's a really touching story of familial redemption and new understandings of one another while also feeling believable. Like the it's a Christmas movie where like it's not it's not magical, but I kind of like that about it because it feels true to life and yet it's still like heartwarming. Like it's heartwarming in a way that feels like it could play out sort of like how it could in real life. So I'm not sure about the Holly and the Ivy's physical media availability, but it is available to watch on Canopy, which is free through your library. Yeah, it's a hidden gem, and yeah, I'd recommend it. Next up is some people know it, but I still don't think enough people have seen it or talked about it. And that is It Happened on Fifth Avenue from 1947, directed by Roy Del Ruth. So, a drifting hobo named Aloysius Mac McKeever spends time in wealthy businessman Mike O'Connor's mansion while he's in Virginia. And it's mentioned in the film that Mike O'Connor is like the second richest man, and his house is typically closed off for the season. But this does not stop Mac from hanging around there. Mac welcomes a former soldier named Jim, played by Don DeFiore, who is recently evicted, and then more people enter the picture. Mike O'Connor's daughter Trudy, Gail Storm, played by Gail Storm, is a teenage runaway, and she becomes friendly with Mac and Jim, and she and Jim end up falling in love. Jim's fellow veterans, Whitey and Hank, as well as their wives and kids, stay with them. Together, they come up with a plan to help war veterans with housing, and like they try to make like army barracks into homes for them in the city. And then soon enough, Mike O'Connor returns, and it's a really touching story about human connection, found family, um, strengthening connections with family, and you know, it touches on issues that still take place today. People often forget that there was a lot of homelessness among soldiers when they came home from World War II, and war veterans today still face such issues. For all the sacrifice they put themselves through, they aren't treated the best when they come back, and their benefits suck. Let's be honest. And nevertheless, It Happened on Fifth Avenue is one of those life affirming movies that inspires generosity and wanting to connect with people, whether it be family or not family. You know, because family doesn't have to be blood. And, You know what I mean? And so next up is The Man Who Came to Dinner from 1942, directed by William Keighley, based off the play of the same title. Let me see who the playwright is. Sorry, guys. Man, Man Who Came to Dinner play. George S. Kaufman and Moss Hart. So Sheridan Whiteside, played by Monty Woolley, is an arrogant and pretentious radio personality from New York, and he travels to the Stanley family house in Ohio to dine in for a publicity stunt. While on his way to the Stanleys, Whiteside injures his hip after slipping on an ice. He ends up spending the holidays with this particular family. The set design of the house is actually quite astounding. And Whiteside is so overbearingly condescending and nastily domineering to everyone in the house. And Monty Woolley plays him so well. Like the delivery of his jerkish lines is so it's it's so perfectly timed and also wittily written, and or written with wit, I should say. And what's funny is that he somehow gets penguins delivered to the Stanley home. Betty Davis plays Whiteside's assistant, Maggie Cutler, played by Betty Davis. And uh, what's interesting is that this character is loosely inspired by one of the playwright's wives. And so Maggie befriends a local newspaper writer named Bert Jefferson, played by Richard Travis, and then Maggie reads a play that Bert wrote, and she's very much impressed. Maggie and Bert fall in love, much to Whiteside's bitter dismay, and then he tries to obstruct their relationships. And the meddling schemes he does are painfully hilarious. And what's interesting is that though he is the main character focus, this is not a Christmas movie where you root for the protagonist. Rather, you root for the supporting characters around him. This isn't an Ebenezer Scrooge character who's prickly at first but has a change of heart. Not really. This is a film about those who have to deal with this total piece of shit stand up for themselves. And I think that is what makes it more effective as a satire on the friction between high class elite versus regular day to day individuals. And it also comments on the absurdities and like celebrity life and culture. The Man Who Came to Dinner is available to watch on HBO Max. Great Betty Davis performance and Monty Woolley performance, and all a very, very funny movie. Next up is another satire, social satire, and that is Metropolitan from 1990, written and directed by Whit Stillman. This is a social satire in which a group of young Manhattanite friends, I'm using the word friends and asterisks because they're more superficial friends, spend the holidays together. Together, they debate on different theories of sociology, and the only real, like, authentic members of this group are Audrey and Patrick. Audrey's kind of shy. She loves Jane Austen. She starts dating a red-haired guy named Tom, who is such a pretentious asshole, and he scoffs at her love of Jane Austen. And there's a point in the movie where he says, I don't even read novels. I only read literary criticism because I get both the story and the analysis. And it's such an absurd line, but like there is some truth to it with the commentary on snobbery. And Tom is not even finished with business involving another girlfriend, and the other girls in this group act like they're being supportive of Audrey, but they really are not. And Patrick is very critical of his friends' pretentious, superficial, and self-serving viewpoints, which at the end of the day are really just for show. And he secretly likes Audrey, and Audrey eventually warms up to him, It's a sharp and witty satire of snobbery that plays really well today as it did back then. Like it today it could be compared to um the conversations these people had could be compared to uh college discussions or like Twitter discussions or X. Well, no one's calling it X. Uh but you know what I mean. But yeah, Metropolitan, worth a watch. Also available to watch on HBO Max. Again, with name changes, I am not calling it Max. It will always be HBO Max to me. Max is a stupid name. It's like how they changed Dunkin' Donuts to just Dunkin'. It's just dumb. Okay. Next up is Remember the Night from 1940, directed by Mitchell Leeson, who also directed Hold Back the Dawn with Olivia de Havilland. The screenplay for Remember the Night was actually written by Preston Sturges, who I brought up in my previous Christmas video with Christmas in July. Barbara Stanwyck plays a woman named Lee Leander who was arrested for petty shoplifting. Her attorney, John Sargent, played by Fred McMurray, releases her via bail, and her trial is postponed, and they drive to Indiana for the holidays. They spend time with each other's families and fall in love. Going into this, I was expecting a screwball romantic comedy, and it actually felt a, a little more real, darker and real than I was thinking it would. And that's not a criticism. In fact, that's what I'm praising it for. And Lee's a complex character, and she did not exactly have the best familial upbringing. And the trial serves as a narrative ticking clock. And once that clock finally ticks, the story concludes in a clever, unexpected, yet satisfying way, thanks to the genius of uh, the writing of Preston Sturges, who's one of the best uh, writers of that era. And Barbara Stanwyck and Fred McMurray give excellent performances, especially Barbara Stanwyck. I love Barbara Stanwyck. Um, one of my favorite starlets of that time. Uh, and I believe, and the Thornbirds, she was an Emmy winner, if I'm not mistaken. And let me just look that up quickly. Sorry, guys. Barbara Stanwyck Emmy. Yes, she did win an Emmy for the Thornbirds for the supporting actress in uh uh for mini series for the Thornbirds, which is excellent. Uh, so I think Remember the Night would pair really well with I'll Be Seeing You, a Christmas romance I brought up in my previous video. Now, Remember the Night you could rent for a couple dollars on Amazon, and it's on Blu-ray. Uh, so yeah, that's Remember the Night. And then finally, we're going to talk about The Sure Thing from 1985, directed by Rob Reiner. Walter Gibson, aka Gibbs, played by John Cusack, I bring up his name again, is a womanizing college freshman, but he hasn't had the best of luck with the ladies as of recently. Walter goes to school in the New England area while Gibbs' best friend, Lance, is at another school. Gibbs secretly likes a friend from his English class, Allison Bradley. He pulls a con to get her to tutor him with classwork. Allison, of course, sees this as like a dick move. And Lance calls Gib up about setting him up with this hot girl in Los Angeles, referring to her as the Sure Thing. That's where the title comes in. And Walter and Allison embark on a cross-country road trip to LA to find this girl. And obviously, it only brings Walter and Allison close together. It's a super fun, hilarious adventure. Best friends fall in love, romantic comedy. The Sure Thing is not available to stream for free, but it is on DVD and Blu-ray. And so, yeah, that's The Sure Thing. Finally, let's get to Christmas Movie Awards. Now, for these, I wanted to go with Christmas movies that, for the most part, are not talked about as much. And even if they are more well known, not like still not like played on TV as much because I love Elf, I love Christmas Vacation, but they overplay them on TV way too much. There needs to be some variety. Really. It's like I understand that like these cable channels want to get the most people watching, so they play what's the safest that can get the most eyeballs, but at the end of the day, people audiences get sick of the same things being played on TV over and over again. Anyway, for best editing, um, for best editing, this was a little tricky to figure out a winner for because, but I ultimately thought of like, okay, I didn't want to many people just think of editing as just a bunch of cuts, but editing is not that. Um, is not just that, and editing also has to do with timing, especially with comedy. And for that reason, I'm giving it to like what I'm trying to say is like editing is a crucial part in like um sometimes with the timing of a joke. And so for that reason, I'm going with the 1994 dark comedy that I brought up in my previous Christmas video, The Ref. For best sound, now this is a film I could have given editing, but I um I ultimately went with The Ref instead. Um, but I decided to give it to Go from 1999 for best score. Now, this is a film you don't it's sort of a Christmas movie, but again, you don't have to watch it on Christmas. You can watch it anytime, but like there is some parts around the holidays, and that is I'm talking about Johnny Greenwood's score for Phantom Thread, which is one of the best scores of the century so far. For best costumes, I decided to give to Carol from 2015. For best production design, this film is more well known, but it's still not played on TV as much as it should. I mean, it is like on TCM sometimes, but again, uh uh not and I don't know how and not much I don't know how many people of this generation have seen it, and that is Meet Me in St. Louis from 1944. Um Besides White Christmas, I think it has some of the best production design in a Christmas movie ever. The costume design is really beautiful in that too, but I ultimately gave that to Carol for here, this case. I wanted to spread the love, as they say. For best cinematography, I decided to go with Eyes Wide Shut from 1999. Yes, I did. Yep, Eyes Wide Shut. Cinematography by Larry Smith, who actually shot a couple of Nicholas Winding Refn films. Uh, Best Supporting Actress. This is another film that's more well known, but uh, it's uh, it's uh, it's Michelle Pfeiffer for Batman Returns. She is such a great Catwoman. She's the best. I think the best. Um, Zoe Kravitz comes close though. I really like Zoe Kravitz, but Michelle Pfeiffer is just fantastic. For Best Supporting Actor, I'm giving it to Sinbad for Jingle All the Way. I they're putting subliminal messages. I know this because I went to junior college for a semester. I studied psychology. I know what's going on. She sleeps with everyone at the post office but me. Such a great monologue that he gives on the freezing line, the freezing store line. For best adapted screenplay, I'm I'm giving it to Antonelli de Grunwald for The Holly and the Ivy from 1952. For best original screenplay, I'm giving it to It Happened on Fifth Avenue from 1947, screenplay by Everett Freeman, Vic Knight, Herbert Clyde Lewis, Frederick Stefani, a couple different screenwriters on it. I just want to remind you guys that these are not supposed to be definitive picks. These are just more, these aren't necessarily like definitive things where like the best sound, the best editing, the best score, and best act performances and writing in a Christmas movie ever. It's more so like shout outs. You know what I mean? And if I do another one of these next year, it'll probably be totally different. For best lead actress, I'm giving it to Barbara Stanwyck for Remember the Night. For best lead actor, again, a more well-known movie, but I still like think it should be mentioned, and that is Michael Caine for The Muppet Christmas Carol 1992. And what's funny is that when he got to play Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge, he asked if he could do it as if he was doing Shakespeare, and they were like, "Yeah," and I just think that's awesome. And so, best acting ensemble, I'm giving it to another Christmas Carol adaptation, and that is Scrooge from 1988. I mean, that cast is so awesome. I mean, besides Bill Murray, you got Karen Allen. I love Karen Allen. You got Alfre Woodard. Um, you got Carol Kane. Let me read some of the cast here. I mean, so many people are in this movie. Bobcat Goldthwait. Robert Mitchum is in it. And the singer David Johansen. And Lee Majors. And then for best director, just one of the most underrated animation directors, Don Bluth. I'm giving it to Don Bluth for Anastasia. And then best picture, I watched it yesterday. It's becoming a holiday staple for me, and that is Tokyo Godfathers from 2003. Well, it was released in Japan, I think, in 2003, but it wasn't released in the US till 2004. Written, directed by Satoshi Kon. Just masterpiece. Such a fantastic, humanistic ensemble character piece, and very touching uh, and human story. And yeah, that will do it for my Christmas movie video. I hope you all enjoyed this, and be sure to check some of these out, whether it's during this Christmas or next year or even Christmas in July. I hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all. Goodbye for now.